On June 24th at 8 a.m., my goddaughter was born. Healthy, happy, to two loving parents. 4 hours later, though, she would lose her right to choose. Her body autonomy would be taken by a Supreme Court justice as they overturn Roe versus Wade. She's now going to grow up in a world where her own grandmother had more rights than she did. And this is an issue that impacts all of us. Abortion rights are healthcare rights. And if you are someone with a uterus, someone married to someone with a uterus, or even someone who's interested in having children one day, this affects you. This affects all of us as a country as well. And having spent 3 months digging into learning our Constitution without knowing this was going to happen, I'm going to discuss why this went against our Constitution and why it needs to be put back in. Let's start with why it is needed. Firstly, it protects women and all other uterus-bearing people. Second, it actually helps our economy more than vice versa. And thirdly, for something that's supposed to show the majority, the Supreme Court justice in our government, it was actually the majority of us that still wanted to have Roe v. Wade in place. So let's start there. Our country is made up of 31 Democrats, 25 Republicans, and 41 independents. And 70% of all those were for keeping Roe versus Wade. In this first poll, as you can see, when asked if people should sue abortion providers, all of them said no. They didn't view it that way. And then when you look at whether abortion should be legal or illegal in given cases, on the far end, saving a woman's life, everyone says should be legal. But even on the end of women just can't afford to have a baby, they still all viewed it the same. It should be legal. The majority of people didn't want this to be overturned. We all wanted it to be codified into our law. So those who got what they wanted was actually a minority. And those who are acting out against it are extremists. It's hurtful to say, but it's true. Because it does not help anybody. It does more harm. But this burden falls on all of us. We had 50 years to cauterize Roe v. Wade into our Constitution, and we didn't. And since we as a majority didn't want this, it is us to also fix it. Also, people misunderstand what abortion is. Abortion is just a procedure. It covers a broad spectrum of things. And yes, some of those are removing unwanted pregnancies. But majority of that happens within the first 9 weeks, 80% actually. And 92% of those also happen within the first 15. And in our health system, the earliest most women can find out is at 6 weeks. 8 weeks on the other end, which means that these people make the decision early on whether or not they want these children. And setting up those cares to get dealt with takes weeks. So they're not sitting around debating, they know what they want. Also, when we get into the third trimester of people getting abortions, which makes up less than 5%, even later, less than 2%, it's not because they didn't want their baby. It is because their baby is not going to survive. Their baby has either already died before it actually got to live a life, or will only live a life of 3 days. These women were ready to have children, and sadly they lost them. But abortions are also to help remove stillborn children or remove children who they don't want to suffer in utero anymore. And if you don't remove them, it actually adds risk to the mother. Chances for disease and infection can take over the mother and kill them. So removing abortion rights stops women from taking care of themselves so they can have healthy births in the future. Also, let's look into the economy. Abortions help our economy. on a personal level and an overall level. Financially, those who get abortions need less government assistance in the future because those who are forced to have children that they are not ready for will most likely require assistance in order to take care of their children. When parents are given the option to end a pregnancy that they are not financially ready for, it gives them time to bounce into a position where they can, which helps boost our economy and doesn't keep people in the cycle of poverty. In that cycle of poverty, it's mostly minorities of Black and Hispanic descent. When they are affected with unwanted pregnancies, if they get the right to end it, it gives them a chance to better situate themselves. It helps minority groups better in the future. If we don't give them that right, they will continue to be the bottom of our economy. And that's something that we as a country are not striving for. Also, mentally. Whenever people are mentally impacted, they do less when it comes to work for themselves, their employers, and for their own families, which means more children will end up in foster care systems if they're forced to have children that they do not want or are not ready for. In the statistics, 95% of women who had abortions were asked after their abortion and 3 years later if they believe they made the right choice. 95 of them said it was the right choice, even after and 3 years later. When women get the chance to take control of themselves, they will do it to help themselves in the future and the children in the future, not even of their own, but of the whole countries. So then why are people so against it? Two main reasons. One of them, which was the founding of the Supreme Court overturning it, it was either for religious reasons or because it was not constitutional. So let's look at the facts. We in our country believe in a separation of church and state, meaning the church cannot govern what the state decides. Roe v. Wade being overturned was a majority church decision. And you're probably wondering, why would I say that? Well, because overturning it actually affects the First Amendment right of religious beliefs of a lot of other different religions. Judaism being one of them. They believe the mother takes priority over the fetus when their life is in danger, meaning if the woman is in danger, they will ask her to abort to save her life, because they also believe life doesn't start until first breath, whereas our leading religions believe starts at conception, and a belief that our government has taken on. And to say that tells them what they believe is wrong, removing them of their First Amendment right and the First Amendment right of Islamic beliefs as well as Satanist beliefs. Whether or not you agree with those religious beliefs, they also have a First Amendment right like the rest of us. This also affects our 14th Amendment right to privacy. That is what it was founded on, Roe v. Wade. That right also covers the right to gay marriage, right to interracial marriage, and even things like HIPAA, your files, your privacy to not be listened in on, all comes from that 14th Amendment right. If Roe v. Wade was overturned based on it not being founded under the 14th Amendment, all those things I listed also go under consideration, and that will be even harder on us as a country. Lastly, looking at the Supreme Court justices that overturned them, I'm going to use Coney Barrett as an example. They lied when swearing into oath. Coney Barrett quoted that Roe v. Wade was the law of the land, and she would not touch it. Yet, there she is, one in the 5 that overturned it. Also, you cannot use personal beliefs as a government official. It must be what is for the betterment of the country. These people choosing to overturn Roe v. Wade, even after they said it was the law of the land, people wanted it, is choosing on their own personal beliefs. It's grounds for them being removed from their position. How can we trust people to speak for the majority when they speak mostly for themselves? Now, this isn't here to fearmonger. We have a chance to fix this because, in all honesty, women are still going to get abortions. They've just now lost their chance to have safe ones. And as you can see, there's many other things we can do to prevent unsafe abortions through sex education, affordable contraceptives, and just talking about what an abortion truly is. And that there's more options to end a pregnancy that involve less gruesome ways of doing it. And if we don't have those, we will have more abortions unsafely. And we're going to have women dying and children dying. Because women who get these unsafe abortions, they may not die, but they will ruin chances for themselves to have kids in the future. The best way to fix this is to vote in November. So if you are concerned about yourself or the self of others, vote in November, please. Here are my citations. And again, please vote.